What's up, Dogettos, and welcome back to Dogo Verdadero podcast. The podcast is dedicated to the true, authentic form of the Dogo Argentino dog. This will be our second installment to our Los Pampas interview. It is with deep regret that we would like to announce that since recording our previous interview, Dr. Raul Zeballos Sr. has transitioned to the other side. We'd like to send our deepest condolences to Maureen and Raul, as well as their family and their Dogo Argentino kennel. We'd like to do a brief moment of silence in respect to his father. Thank you, guys. And without any further ado, here's part two.
Took another decade, or almost another decade, into the mid 60s, when we see the standardization of the breed, the stock, and I'll get to that in a second further, but my father was there every step of the way. So, when he was 12 years old, he goes to, my dad was a brilliant child. Like, he was so intelligent as a child. He graduated high school at the age of 14.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
how
he
most people
graduated.
start.
Yes. He graduated. So he went to an advanced program, which is actually really interesting because, when I talk to my dad, I just, my mind is usually, it's just, I'm amazed because, I consider myself a very overachiever. In my profession, I've done really well. But my father is one
Mhm.
of those people that, I will never fill his shoes. And I don't know anybody in the world that has done what he has done. So he started high school at 12. He went to the Naval Academy in Argentina. Okay, he graduated high school early at 14. He started university study. He took a year break, you know, he took a well-deserved year break, and at 15 he
Mhm.
started college. And while he was at the University of Cordoba doing his first year of geology, Dr. Antonio Norris Martinez was actually, if I remember correctly, he was the director of the medical faculty at the University of Cordoba. So
Mm.
him and my dad became very close that year. My father lived actually across the street from their home. Okay,
Mm.
and then they, so my father worked really closely with him about the dogs and learned a lot of information from him directly. And then my family, my father, my grandfather kept breeding, and my father graduated from the University of Cordoba with his doctorate in geology when he was 18 years old. Then he got his second doctorate. No, no, actually, I'm wrong. He graduated with his 4-year degree in geology from the University of Cordoba. Then he got his doctorate degree from the University of Buenos Aires, his
Mhm.
doctorate in geology, and he finished that when he was 20. When he was 20, we're talking now 1960, there were about 40 or so dogos in the world. Okay. My family had about 8 or 9 of them. Okay. And at that time, the dogo was actually dying. So Antonio had already passed. Agustin was trying to maintain the breed alive. And like I said, the breed wasn't really a breed yet because the breed wasn't really recognized at the time anywhere. It was,
And now the
it wasn't
visionaries are gone.
standardized. Yeah, it wasn't standardized yet. We didn't have, you know,
Homogeneousness. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it wasn't yet there. There was a lot of, there were a lot of dogs of different styles.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and at the time, the breed was somewhat of in disarray because there was no the breeders, the few families that had them, were not really working in concert because Agustin was getting a handle on everything. Okay, so Agustin got really focused around 1961. Okay, and funny enough, and that time he was living in Neuquén. My father is working from at age 20 when he graduates from the University of Buenos Aires with his doctorate. He gets a job with YPF, which is the National Oil Company of Argentina.
Mhm.
And he gets sent to Neuquén, same place where Agustin is. It's really, it's life is funny, right?
It's like
And
it's
I,
supposed to work.
yeah, it's like supposed to work out, right? So my father moves to Neuquén with his 8, 9 dogos, and there's another man that my dad becomes really good friends with, which is Amadeo Vilo, who was a prolific hunter.
The
Okay,
hunter. Yeah.
yeah, he's one of the greatest hunters in history. Amadeo wasn't really a breeder. He was more a hunter. That's what he cared about. I met Amadeo. When I was very young. I actually met his kid when I was very young, Gonzalo and all them. We're not in touch. But I have a lot of respect for the Below family because they were instrumental in this moment in time. When my father, Amadeo, and Agustin were trying to conform the breed and create those hunting trials. They were the ones that started doing a lot of these you know, major big game hunting, okay? And a lot of legendary dogos came out of this era, specifically
Mm.
two that I'm going to talk about because my father spoke a lot about both of these dogs. So there was Cobb de las Pampas and Dai de Trevelin, okay? And
Oh, I've
those,
heard both of those before.
so they were legendary hunting dogs, absolutely incredible, dogs that followed the spirit and the morphology and the normotype that Antonio in his notes wanted in the dogo. And Antonio unfortunately never really got to see this. This is something that my father always, every time we talk about this, he says it with a lot of sadness that Antonio never got to see the dogo be
Yeah.
what it could have been for him, but he wanted it to be. He never got to see the dogo come to fruition. And Agustin was more politically connected. So even though Antonio was, he was the genius of the creation of the breed. Nobody else was really, nobody else was involved like him. He
Mhm.
masterminded this genetic experiment to create the idea and the concept of the dogo. He
Mhm.
never saw it come to fruition, but his brother did something that he couldn't do, which was he got the people that had the dogos, the couple families, including mine and a few others that had dogos in the early 60s to agree to conform the breed and create the stock necessary to get the breed accepted.
Mhm.
Just to tell you,
He
like I was
finished it
telling,
through.
yeah, he finished it through. And Agustin, we have to thank Agustin for, two things that are crucial, to the Dogo. You know, the first one is he collected all of the work from Antonio, which we actually have most of it here in our ranch in Florida. Agustin gave it to my father,
Wow.
and those notes conform the original breed standard that was used on March of 1964. And at that moment, Agustin was looking at dogs. Agustin was, he looked at all the dogos, that existed at the time. Like, to give you an example, how few dogs there were, Cobb, who is the first dog that was registered in the FCA, Cobb de las Pampas, was Dogo number 58 in the rural club of the Dogo Argentino registry in Argentina. So there were about 70 dogs probably at that time that
Mhm.
were registered in the history of the registration of the breed. So there were not that many dogos. Okay, and that's something that is crucial for people to understand, because the dogo, you know, is people talk about the breed, existing in 1947, but they don't understand, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand because they weren't there. That the breed really did not become a breed until 1964, when there was enough stock and we had the standardization of the breed.
So up until
So
that
that
point, we can say the
until that point,
idea is
it
what
was
existed.
exactly, and
Yeah.
that's something that is, a lot of people debate today. But the reality is that the Dogo became the Dogo when the FCA accepted them into the the Argentine Canine Federation. Okay, that was the moment that we can say the Dogo was born as a breed. Because before that, the Dogo was a concept and it was an idea. And
Mhm.
Agustin is the one that took it to fruition. Agustin is the one that standardized and created a standard. That today that standard is not even the one that's used by any of the federations. This is something that saddens. My father fought this a lot. My father and Ruben Passet Lastra, who was a president of the FCA, they fought these standard changes in 1998 that started, what we call the decline of the breed. The
Mhm.
breed started being, destroyed by the clubs, because today the standard of the breed is not the vision that Agustin put forth based on the work of his brother.
Mm.
And that's something that is, it makes
I'll
it
have to
very
get that from
difficult.
you one day so I can
Oh, I
read
can
that
send
out
you. I
for
can
everyone.
send you. I can send you that standard.
Because I've
It
read the
our
AKC
website.
standard. I want to
Yeah,
read the
yeah.
original.
No, the AKC standard is incorrect.
Okay.
It's incorrect. Unfortunately, there's and the standard, and the thing is that the standard is quite simple. The breed was created. There are things. There's things that today a lot of people argue. Like, one of them is that Antonio, you know, um, he didn't finish his work. So people take his unfinished work and think that that was the final notes of his work, and it
Yeah.
wasn't. Antonio was not able to finish it because he was murdered over a
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah. That's sad.
That's what happened. It was a robbery. Somebody tried to steal his watch and they murdered him. There's a lot of speculation that could have been political and this and that. But that's most likely it was over a watch that he was murdered.
All right, y'all. That was part two. Hope y'all liked it. Let me get a like, share, subscribe. Y'all be on the lookout for part three. Peace.